What's going on, guys? Back here in the garage trying to do something in this hot ass weather. It's funny because the days I choose to stay inside the room, just either resting up or editing videos, it's nice and chilly out. But the day that I decide to come out here and do something, it is hot as balls. So I was out here in the garage a few hours just kind of messing with my TIG welding machine, trying to get better at welding a little bit. I don't have a lot of scrap material, but I am cutting a bunch of old pipes together, clean them up, and just trying different settings out. But I wasn't going to record anything today given that it's the weekend and I'm just really trying to chill out. But that's what daily vlogging is all about, just recording anything and everything as the days go. So right now I got to jack up my mom's car. Damn, this shit's like brand new tires I threw on here. Woke up one morning and yeah, well, the tire's completely flat. So what I got to do is take it off. If it's patchable here, I'll patch it. If it's not, then I have a tire place right across the street from me and get that tire repaired. Hopefully it's not on the sidewall, because if it's on the sidewall, it's not repairable. Last night, I took out the wagon, went to a meet, which was a reason for me to pull the wagon out to go to Sonic's, and I went to Sonic's, then I went to the meet, which then got broken up because everybody was shooting fireworks and there was burnouts and stuff all over the place. It was cool for a good 2 hours, but then I, shrunk my balls and I was like, yo, I gotta get out of here because, the wagon, it's just not in the right place to be, because I don't want to lose the car to the cops or whatever the case. I drove with no insurance, and so as we were going home, just so happened to run into a mob of domestics and had some runs. You guys are gonna have to stick to the end of this video to see those races, and there was only a few. There weren't much. They didn't want to race the Honda, and given that I was the only Honda in the group of domestics, I had to like squeeze my way up to the front. But anyways, fuck, I'm really sitting here just like so eager to race the CRX now. Track is next week, guys, so stay posted for that. We're gonna bring those CRX out and try to run a PB before we come back and start messing with all the turbo stuff. So while I was welding, I decided that, you know what, let's make some tabs for this fan to fit onto this radiator and have that out of the way. But first I'm gonna have to put some butt connectors on here and power this up, figure out which way it spins, and figure out if it even works. So let's do that really quickly. So I hooked up the fan here to my battery pack, and this sucker is strong as hell. Oh yeah, made in Japan, boy. So given that this thing is stupid strong and the radiator's not that big, I'm not gonna make a shroud for it. If you guys don't know what a shroud is like a back plate that covers pretty much all of this, and then it's gap between the fans, so that way when the fan draws out, the drawing of the air is going to draw from pretty much all ends of where the shroud meets the radiator fins and draw them all into one direction right here and pull out. So that means you're pulling more heat out across the radiator than just this center section of where the fins are at. So this is going to get cooled down, this is going to get cooled down, whatever. I'm not going to use a shroud, YOLO. So this is done. I can't weld, so I'm not going to fab it just yet. I still got to go right now and pull that wheel off my mom's van. So I got the wheel off the van and I found this ugly looking piece of rod through the tire, and that's where the flat's coming from. So I was going to patch it right now, but my parents took the Odyssey and all of the patch equipment is in the back of the van, so I won't have to wait for them to come back. But right now I was taking a quick look at this manifold, and my only way to run this without cutting the hood is obviously to run without a hood. This sticks up further than the valve cover. The valve cover is about right here. The tubular portion of the manifold sticks up higher, than the wastegate sticks up higher than that. And with that being that high, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, it would stick out of the hood about right here. That's pretty freaking high. So my plan is to run that manifold because it was given to me. Again, thank you to Sean for donating that to the cause. But I'm gonna run that and just kind of see what it does. But I do plan on buying materials to make a new manifold, possibly a lower sitting manifold, so we can retain a hood And that's just for future, like that's later stuff. Well, I guess I really just wanted to get down with that radiator today, so I guess I am draining my cooling system and pulling this radiator out because it is also blocking the header. With the radiator out, I can you know, mess with the radiator fitment and the turbo fitment. I'm as eager as you guys are. Let me show you what I've been doing. So here is the turbo manifold installed on the car. I didn't show you guys too much of it last time when I was fabbing up the radiator. And this is what I was talking about as far as sticking out the hood. You can see the wastegate right there. And then the runners are right behind it. And given that the valve cover already sticks out the hood, no doubt in my mind, that's coming out the hood as well. But if I am going to be running this manifold, I am not running a hood because I am not trying to cut a giant hole on top of the big old hole that's already on there. So if I do run this manifold, like I've mentioned, I'm going to run it without the hood. I haven't got to the radiator portion of it yet because I'm not committed to cutting those mounts out since I welded that on for the other radiator. But if I finish the aluminum radiator, then we don't need that sucker. But before we touch the aluminum radiator, I at least want to get this manifold fitted in place. And to fit this turbo with the snail in this position with the compressor on the passenger side, I had to notch a ton off the block to fit the compressor housing. This is a GT35 dual ball bearing, and I had to cut the webbing on the block, and this has been done throughout the decades of racing. Shouldn't be no issue, but I notched it to the point where this manifold will sit flush on the head, and it's flush now, maybe like a few millimeters from completely closing on the gap. This is how ideally how I want to sit it. So let me show you some of the issues that I have. One, wastegate sits super high, really tight space between the exit of this and the alternator, and if I was to use the alternator relocating kit on the bottom, it'll be in the way of the downpipe. Now the reason why I have the compressor housing on the passenger side is because if I flipped it around, the snail is going to come out like this. All of this will be pretty much interfering with the T-bar. So the reason why I want to run it this way is because I want to keep it tucked in and have all the space right here. But in order to do that, all of this modification has to happen. So I wanted to run the wastegate up in the front, but when I had the T-bar in place, it's literally in the way of the T-bar. But if I put a little penis coming out right here, then I can technically run the wastegate down here at the bottom where there's a ton of space. But you know, I got to factor in the intercooler, which I have in place, and this is my intercooler from my red CRX. It's smaller in core, so technically it's flush up with the bumper without cutting. But I don't mind cutting out the grill to have the intercooler sit more forward so we can have more space here. But I'm running a thinner core just because you know, I want the space. So a lot of fitting to do, a lot more modification I have to do to get this sucker to fit. And obviously with the feed line and everything clocking into place, want to make sure that all that is clear for me to bolt everything up. The intercooler piping has to be modified right there because ideally I want this to exit out the bumper, and the intercooler is literally right in front of the hole. And I would have to do like a crazy sharp 90 right here, and then coming up to the passenger side on the compressor housing to go up in here. But not 100% yet. This is what test fitting and you know, fabrication, doing whatever I needed to do to make everything work, it's all about. So and that's the fun part, honestly. But I don't want to get too deep into this, but I was anxious, so I figured let's throw it on. It was supposed to be a radiator type of day, but it just turned into a turbo type of day. So I'm going to give you guys a quick look here on the notching of the block, and that is a lot of modification just to make this turbo fit. So I took the turbo off, and I was like, all right, well, let's try to flip it the other way and see if I can see what kind of room I have as far as intercooler, T-bar, and radiator and everything else underneath here goes. The turbo doesn't even line up. Alternator right there, flange way off, and intercooler. Intercooler, I can push it more forward, not a big deal. I'm gonna fit it again after I take this intercooler back out, but obviously compressor housing hits the alternator right here. And if I was to flip it, you know, turbo kicking out this way, then I can probably relocate the alternator down there. I might just try it. I'm not 100% sure if I even want to do that right now. So, all this bullshit I've been talking about the turbo and the T-bar and all that bullshit. I don't know how I got measurements last time that led me to believe the turbo was going to hit the T-bar. It does not even come close to touching the goddamn T-bar. So, it looks like the turbo will work a ton better flipped around. Now, I notched all the block for no goddamn reason. But the only thing is the wastegate comes way too damn close to the alternator already to begin with. And now that the compressor housing is sitting right here, I can't even freaking weld, I don't know, a pipe or some shit to dump the wastegate somewhere. When the turbo was the other way, I could have just made like a nice sharp, you know, 40, not 40, but like 120 or something, and then shoot straight down. But now the compressor's in the freaking way. I have to make some crazy shit going backward. This may be a better choice for me. One, I can go right up pipe. Two, the intercooler would be a straight shot to the compressor housing right here in the back. Three, all of these fittings are accessible, and yes, it's not fully bolted up because the compressor housing hits the alternator right here. So here it is pushed up, there it is touching, there it is not closed. So I'd rather trim the alternator or smack, no, I don't want to smack it in. I want to trim the alternator rather than cutting more of my damn block to fit the turbo this way. And the intercooler was actually, you know, like I said, I wanted to run it because I can keep it behind the bumper, but I don't mind cutting it out. So I can technically push the intercooler 3 more inch outward, out the grill, out the bumper, which is perfectly fine with me. And I'll have a lot more room for the turbo. So I installed the Hasport alternator relocating kit. The fitment for the turbo, it clears most definitely. I have to do some crazy like bending and stuff for the intercooler to get to the compressor housing, but nothing I can't fab up. I got plenty of room under the alternator, and I can, I don't know, 90 or something. Wastegate has a lot more room for the dump, so I can literally like loop it around or come out the hood this way. Plenty of room for the up pipe for the exhaust housing of the turbo. I got plenty of room up in the front. I got a pretty nice size room gap between the compressor and the grill, and if I cut the grill out, then more than enough room for the intercooler. The turbo kit is going to be just how you see it right here. But now that we have a better look of how everything is going to fit, I can at least go order the stuff that I need to obviously complete the whole turbo installation of this. Now I got to put everything back together so we can have it ready for track this upcoming Saturday. Probably not going to put the radiator back in because tomorrow I might just fidget with it real quick, and if we get the other radiator you know, done and it works and it doesn't leak, then we'll permanently set the aluminum radiator in place, and then we'll just run at the track with that. Alright guys, so everything is put away, everything reinstalled except the radiator, because we're going to be tackling that tomorrow. I didn't get to patch up the tire for my mom's car because I don't have any more of those insert things, but I'm about to go buy right now from O'Reilly's and put the wheel back on my mom's car because she needs it tomorrow. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't and made it to the end of it, enjoy these last few clips, and see you guys tomorrow.